To get us going, I'd like to introduce our moderator, Rosalyn Dennett, a fiddler, singer, songwriter, and multi-instrumentalist who has established herself on the international route scene through her role as one of the founding members of the highly acclaimed quartet, Oh My Darling. Rosalyn's an elected director of the board of directors of Folk Alliance International, Folk Music Ontario, and AFM Local 1000. She is a current licensing and outreach coordinator for the Canadian Federation of Musicians, and previously has held positions at Music Canada, Music Ontario, Canadian Independent Music Association, the Canadian Live Music Association, and is a co-founder of Stump Media and Smiths Falls Music. Rosalyn does know music. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you very much for having me here. This is such a pleasure, and it's a really cool initiative, and really happy to take part in volume one of the Canadian home studio tour. Right? Did I say those words in the right order? I'm not actually sure. I don't have it in front of me, but I'm so pumped to be able to interview Yolande Laroche for this session. I will tell you a bit about her from her bio here, but I've also had a chance to check out her music online, which you can do through the links for this event, and I highly suggest that you do because it's very cool. She is a Franco-Taiwanese Canadian artist based in Ottawa. Reflects her hyphenated identity, life and death, and themes of alienation in her debut solo project under the pseudonym Orchidae. Am I saying that right? Because I didn't get a chance to
That's right.
check that. Okay, thank you. Soft hypnotic melodies and mantras intertwine with minimal yet meaningful, at times psychedelic orchestration. And she currently has a full-length album set to release in 2022. As a classically trained clarinetist and touring session musician, Yolande is a core member of the alt-rock band Pony Girl and experimental chamber project Malem. Did I say that one right too?
Maleme.
Maleme. Cool. Thank you very much. She's also worked with artists such as Rayannah, Luka Kuplowski, Nick Schofield, Michael Dugai, Cedric Noel, and several others. And, you know, Joel very kindly went through my bio. I always cringe when someone reads my bio to me, but it's really important that I really wanted to go through yours because it, you do a lot of different things. You do a lot of different types of work, it seems like, with some different projects. And like I mentioned, I got the chance to listen to your music, and it's well, I'm not going to put labels on it, but it's really amazing to me what you're able to do from home, and the different soundscapes you're able to create. So I'm really excited to get to see what your home setup is, and share that with our audience. So I guess my first question for you, and I'll preface all of this by that I'm very much not a techie. I'm the least techie person. My home setup, other than this, is like a tin can and a string. So
Wonderful.
if there's details that I'm missing, please feel to pop them in. But what I'm interested in starting off with here is a little bit about you're a session musician. You also do your own recordings. What did this look like before the pandemic? Were you mostly in other people's studios, or were you still doing a lot of recording from home? What did it look like for you?
Well, first of all, thank you for the introduction. I appreciate that. For me, before the pandemic, um, I think it was a bit of both. I was recording from home, mostly my personal stuff. And then if I was doing session work for someone else, we would go to a studio for the most part. Nowadays, um, when someone has been asking me to do recordings for them, I have been doing them in my bathroom. And particularly clarinet because my apartment just has this weird, like sizzle, reverb, kind of gross sound. It's like shaped in like a donut, so it doesn't have the best sound. But in the bathroom, for some reason, it works in there. So that's kind of where I've been recording from, and kind of just moving my station as need be. I do have the this piano here that's like kind of stationary, but everything else I just move around when I need to.
Oh, great. Um, when you're recording, so when you're doing your recordings from home, um, do you find that you have a different, you mentioned there's the bathroom and then there's the stationary piano. Does it differ between doing your like a live versus recording for something else? Like if you're doing like a live streaming thing, are you changing your setup versus recording to like just purely audio recording?
Yeah, I think like well, for instance, last summer I did a live stream concert that was hosted by Orchestra. So that's a organization that I work for. I teach music um, with that organization. So they wanted to feature some teachers. So I played an improvised concert on piano, clarinet, and voice. So obviously, I kind of change my setup for depending on what's required for the event. Um, so at that point, I had everything. So just to go more technically, I had everything going through a mixer. And then I had my friend Pascal who filmed everything and was able to do the mixing on his end. So it worked out that I didn't have to do my own sound while I was playing. So that was extremely helpful. Doing your own sound while you're playing can be stressful, especially when you don't know what it sounds like on the other end. Um, so I think I just try to be as flexible as possible, depending on like what's required at the time. And for instance, I just did some clarinet recordings for this artist named David James Allen, and normally I think they would have invited me into a studio, and it would have been just a collaboration where the feedback is immediate. But then due to the pandemic, we had a Zoom meeting and we went through every song and um, even went to like, okay, at 1 minute 25, we want you to add bum bum bums in there. So I just took very thorough notes on what they wanted, went into the bathroom, set everything up, and I had my clarinet. So my clarinet has I got a pickup for it. So it turns it kind of into the idea of an acoustic guitar. You can plug in an acoustic guitar, but it's still an acoustic instrument. So I got this little thingy. It's a pickup. So I was able to send them a line that had the clarinet running through a pedal. So I run through a space echo pedal, tape delay. It makes everything sound really lush and just sends you into outer space. And then I also have another microphone where I can just send them the room sound. Um, and then I think that with that kind of blend, that's kind of been my go-to sound has been the space echo for a number of years now, especially on the clarinet. So it's just been fun to be able to give a more traditional sound, the dry room, and then give them also a line that has something lush going on with it.
You bring up a really interesting point that I feel like, um, I've done a very small amount of home recording during this time. Uh, but you bring up such a good point when the communication isn't the same. You're recording from home. It's not like being right there in the studio and having that dialogue back and forth. Um, do you uh, do you find that gives you a bit more freedom in some cases, not getting the feedback, or do you crave the immediate feedback there?
I mean, I do appreciate collaboration like that when it's immediate. I like that, you'll play something and be like, actually, can you play it like this? So for me, it was just a lot of like guessing work and kind of interpreting their words, um, and then being open to like making revisions. So, for instance, I was doing 4 tracks for them. I I did, um, for each section like added layers. Okay, I'm thinking the verse they wanted something more sustained, so long tones, and then using, the word jazz to describe like something for the chorus, and like jazz can mean so many things for so many different people. But then they also sent examples from other artists, just reference points for me. So that's always super helpful. So if I can just turn on a song, listen to that for a bit and be like, okay, that's the vibe, try to embody that in my own way, and then record something, that really, really helps me a lot, especially when the feedback can't be immediate. And then, so I've sent them the first batch, let's say, of versions. And then for our second Zoom meeting, for the revisions, we actually, I downloaded this plugin that they suggested I do. It's called Audio Movers. And then that was really cool. There's a lot of like cool technology out there that I'm not super aware of yet, but I've been using Splice, for instance, to collaborate. You can open a session. So basically, you save a session onto their cloud for free, and then your collaborators can download that session. So they can have um, your Ableton session, for instance, on their computer save, and it saves to the cloud. So then you can open it up. So that's really cool. Um, it's a cool way to collaborate and record onto the same file, so that you're not like sending wave files here and there and everything's all messy and you're not hearing the same thing. So that's been fun. And then, so back to Audio Movers, that's a plugin that allows you to listen in real time to someone's session. So I had downloaded the plugin, put it onto my master channel, and then I was able to create the stream key, send it to them, and then they could hear everything that I was doing in my file. So I could be recording and they're just listening in real time. So that was cool. Then we had another another
Oh,
thing
wow.
open so that we could talk to each other. Because, doing things remotely, it's like you need a lot of different things open to help you. So, um, those things exist. That's the cool thing for me, learning from the pandemic, is that the technology exists and you just have to find a way to make it work for you.
That's yeah, that's really interesting because yeah, my follow up was about the idea of kind of having to, like, without that immediate feedback, you then have to, be doing multiple sessions, right? Instead of the actually, can you try this, that you could just whip up in 5 minutes. Now you're booking a whole other
Yeah.
feedback session and coming into it with, Tuesday's mind instead of Monday's mind when maybe you originally did it. So uh, that's really cool that you can have that real time feedback with some of the programs.
Yeah, definitely.
Um,
Definitely adds more, more time in terms of like getting the work done. You can't just book a day at the studio and yeah, you just can't do it that way anymore. But I am happy there's a workaround at least.
that's neat. I was going to ask, now you don't have to give us a tour of your bathroom right now. But I was wondering what um, what if, what kind of changes you have to make, and like how much of a setup process it is um, to kind of get your setup going when you're doing things out of your house. Like how much infrastructure are you moving around? Are you uprooting a toilet or?
Oh, just a second. It says here, your volume comes through much higher than mine, and then they be
Oh,
more even. It says,
well,
Yolande, can I turn up? Yeah, I can turn up. I have a quiet voice, so. um, this one's my microphone. Is this better?
nice. I can hear you loud and clear.
Awesome. So, in terms of my bathroom setup, so I I usually play. Okay. So I'll bring my laptop stand, laptop interface. I bring my mixer because I find that my interface is quite noisy, so I just like to bring the gain up through my mixer. And I'll have my clarinet running through a pickup into a pedal into my mixer, and so the mixer is being directed into my interface. And then I'll set up another microphone, a room mic, so that I can capture everything around me. And then I just bring like blankets and foam, and I just like put that around me, clothes, anything that'll just like soak up a bit of sound, just so that it's not too reverby because it's still a bathroom. My shower curtain, thankfully, is like linen, so that kind of absorbs some sound as well. And yeah, basically, it's a very similar setup that I have from like, or what I'm doing right now to just talk to you and have all my instruments going through my mixer. So that's kind of what I do. And then yeah, yeah. Does that answer your question?
It does. Yeah. So then, uh, for let's say, uh, I watched one of your videos where you had like effects processing on your voice. Um, is that something that you're doing live in time, where you're processing it while you're playing, or is that kind of stuff happening in post production?
So I got myself for a Christmas present in 2019 a VE500 Boss pedal. And it's a here I can actually grab it. I don't know, my cables are a little bit messed up back here, so it might be hard to show you what it looks like. This is it, and it's really, really fun. I've been able to program a lot of patches with it. It has so many different effects. I'm not trying to like sell this to you, but it's been really fun to use. Um, and it's very customizable. There's a program that you can download for your computer, and you customize everything in your computer. It makes things way easier than programming it on the box itself, because it just has a few like knobs and buttons. But every button and knob, you can change the function of it. So for instance, if I want to turn the button on the right for my foot to turn on a harmony, I can do that. And I can also program what the harmony is going to be. So if I'm singing a C, I can program the button to turn on a harmony that will sing a fifth and a seventh on top of that. So it's very, like, you can really go into minute detail if you want to. You can press another button that's going to turn on a different kind of reverb, turn off a reverb to turn on a different one. It's like you can just do a bunch of stuff with it. It's really fun. I find that like if I'm doing a concert, like a live stream or even a show, like I just did the Mike Shankman show with Pony Girl and my own project Orchidae. So I just bring my pedals so that I can have a bit more control over what my voice sounds like. And yeah, I just find that like for a live performance, I like to kind of play around with what my voice can sound like. And I'm like, yeah, I want auto tune and like this one tiny bit of chorus here. So like, why not? Let's just do it. And it's just been fun to have this like pedal around to help me do that.
Yeah, well, the results are so cool, and it's such a neat thing to hear. Um, yeah, the creativity that you're putting into creating all these different sounds with your voice. It's really really neat. Um, so you got this pedal for Christmas for yourself. You're already making awesome art with it. What's your um, what's your learning process like when you're getting a new piece of gear? How are you putting in the research before? Are you sitting there pouring through the manuals? What's your process usually like there?
That's a good question because I find that, well, I come from a classical background, so gear is not something that like you get. Like I grew up playing classical piano and clarinet, so you kind of just you get your instrument and then you just work at making that instrument sound as good as possible. So I at first, like, I did not know what an XLR cable was. Like I had no idea how sound worked at all in a contemporary music context. And gear like scared the shit out of me. Like I was like, an amp, like please, like I'm like I actually remember just feeling so tight about it. And then I started I started playing with Pony Girl, and like it's not like a fun thing to admit, but at first I was like, can you please like help me plug in? Like I had to ask my bandmates to help me plug in a microphone. And that at the beginning is just like it just makes you feel like small, and it sucks. And I don't know if it's just due to my classical background, or maybe just I just had like a general fear of like like stuff that I didn't understand, I guess. And just being younger, just being in a different place in my life. Over time, I just started asking questions, and I was like, I don't want you to just do this for me. I want to understand how it works. And having friends that are willing to help you with that is super important, I think. Like I I learned a lot through just asking questions. So and then eventually I was like, okay, I want to play keyboard. I can't play a piano to tour. Like I just started asking people what kind of keyboard I should buy. And then did a bunch of research, like watched a million YouTube videos, and then at the time settled on the Juno, the cute little box. I forget the Roland Boutique, um, and then that I used that through a MIDI keyboard, and that was like my first like touring synthesizer, and I was like really happy about it. And then over time, reading the manual, getting to learn to use all of the knobs and the buttons in real time, and that was like whoa, like cool, like I'm doing it. Then I was like, okay, cool, time to upgrade. So then I got the Prophet 6, sequential Prophet, and then that I was like, holy moly, I am in a space station right now. I'm so happy about it. I think it's like just like any instrument, like you just start like with a beginner instrument. Like even before the Juno Boutique, I had just like a Roland like digital keyboard, and and it didn't sound that great, but I feel like I had to start small and then over time build that confidence. Um, and I mean, I think like there's also just a general for me, like I had a lack of mentorship in growing up. I had no idea I could be a musician. I did not see a lot of women and no women of color around me playing music, being techie. Um, so it was like a very scary thing. But thankfully, I just had people around me who were willing to help me out, and eventually having the confidence to ask the questions, and just kind of like owning it. And it took a while. It took me like I've been playing music my entire life, but I would say in the last 3 or 4 years have I become comfortable assuming myself as a musician, as a person who can handle instruments, and um, showing up to a gig and being asked, "Oh, are you the singer?" Like, no, I'm the keyboardist, and like,
Oh, story of my life. Yes.
and just like, and not being. I feel like at first those kinds of questions really like was just a bummer for me, and kind of like it. Yeah, it was just yeah. I guess a bummer is probably the right word for it. I kind of just got like a bit deflated. But now I'm just like, you know what? I can play the shit out of this instrument, and you better fucking listen. So
Yeah, you can.
yeah, so that's just where I'm at right now, and um, I, I think we just have to continue proving ourselves, and until the day that like those assumptions just don't exist anymore, and we can just like play.
I'm so glad you brought that up. It's um, you know, I've certainly experienced as a female instrumentalist. Uh, there's kind of a yeah, there's definitely stigma attached to your relationship with gear, and not there's people assume, or I would find that people would assume that I didn't know what my gear did. Like I had just shown up and I had bought this gear, and I'm unboxing it for the first time on stage right now in front of about to perform for 500 people. Uh, it got yeah, it can be a bummer. It can be frustrating um, to to not have the assumption be that you know how to use your own uh, stuff. And but then the counter to that is that then I feel like we get afraid to ask questions because we don't want to seem like we don't know. So I've certainly felt like that at times
Yeah,
too. Of being,
absolutely.
yeah, like you don't want to let people know that you might not know something because you want to
Hmm.
build yourself up to people's expectations, I guess. Um, yeah. So thank you for bringing that up. That's a pretty important one. Um, in terms of your so you were talking about uh, a bit of your background um, and how you started um, learning about these uh, learning about the technologies. How did that coincide with your music career in general? Like, did you you have your classical background? Um, at what point did you start kind of uh, doing your own recording, experimenting with these different kinds of sounds and these different kinds of gear, um, and at the same time branching off into these different stylistic genres and different avenues of your career.
Um, I think that what propelled me into the direction of wanting to be more independent was I discovered like this desire to play music because it brought me to such a beautiful community. I made friends like through music, and just the joy of music was so powerful for me. But in the classical world, I think I'm either not built for it, or um like my like I had a like severe anxiety growing up, and for me like the idea of perfection that is found in classical music, I just couldn't really like handle it. And I, finished my Bachelor of Music at University of Ottawa. I'm really proud of that, but it wasn't an easy thing for me because I found it so competitive, and it wasn't it wasn't the kind of community that I was hoping for. In high school, I wasn't like in junior band, senior band, jazz band. I was like all in. I would eat lunch in the music room with my friends. All of my friends were like music kids, and that was like I love this community. And then upon going to a university, it kind of like that community for me kind of like went away for some reason, and it was just like this. The goal was like to achieve like perfection, and that in doing that, it kind of just like ruined my mental health. I was just like not I wasn't doing it for the connection anymore. It was just trying to be good. And I think at the time when I was in pursuing my studies, I think I just didn't have the resources to deal with that. And then I went into a coffee shop, saw an acquaintance, and he was a bass player, and he's like, "Hey, you play clarinet? Do you want to come jam with us?" And I just I don't drink coffee. Like for some reason, I wanted a coffee that day. I don't know why. It just kind of like serendipitous. Went to the coffee shop. He asked me to jam, and I said yes. And that kind of like opened the door again to music through community and music through friendship, and music being for me like the power of presence. And and I think that gave me the confidence again to pursue music, because I had just been completely just like crushed by like academia. And
I relate so hard to that story. Yeah,
mhm, it's
yeah.
yeah, it's really hard. And but I'm happy now that I do have those skills. I do have that learning, that teaching. I can read music. It's an amazing gift. But I can apply that now through now to a different kind of practice, and and then playing with um, more pop bands. Then I was like, I want to like make music too. Like I'm seeing like this kid playing guitar, doesn't know one chord, makes amazing songs. I'm like, I have I have all those skills too.
I
And
know
I
all
can
the
do that too.
chords.
Yeah, and it's like what's stopping me from writing? Like I I didn't really know what was stopping me. I think maybe it was still like the issue of like seeking perfection. If I write a song, if it's not good, then I'm not performing to that, high standard, but that's not true. So it's just a lie. And I think that's why I've been just like, you know what? I want to write music. I have a voice. I'm gonna use it.
Do you do you find that during the writing process, uh, you are like are the writing process for you and the recording process linked together? Are you writing in your studio and recording at the same time, or do you like write, get it all down, and then go and record?
Um, I think, well, I always write with a recording tool, so that might be just like my phone at the time, and like pen and paper, and then I really try to just put down ideas, like into Ableton, even if it's like not the best sounding quality thing. Like I'm not trying to record, um, like the song initially. I think it's mostly like when I'm recording, it's mostly just to have the ideas down. Um, So yeah, I usually just start with my phone, just so that I can, and then I'll usually start the recording with like I'm playing a D major chord going to G, and then so just so that I can like really like settle into my brain what I'm up to, because like often the phone recording doesn't sound that great. It's just like a method for me to remember ideas, and then when something sticks, I'll usually like smoke a joint and then practice the song for like an entire hour without stopping and just like really trying to like nail the entrances and then the different transitions, and then I usually try to record on my phone a full run through of a song or of a section, for instance. Um and when I'm feeling pretty good about it, that's when I'll plug everything into my laptop and try to get the different parts in, and I'll do vocal and piano separately to start, and then start adding different stuff underneath that, different layers.
And then, so in terms of your, so that's kind of your writing process, and then your recording. What's the post production looking like for you? Are you involved in that post production, doing it yourself? Do you send it off to somebody? How do you do that?
Um, Post production. Do you mean like mixing or do you mean like production?
Yeah, like I guess both.
Producing.
I want
Yeah.
to know the whole journey. So,
um,
yeah. So from when you're laying down your parts to the mixing process,
mhm.
mastering if you want to go all the way
Yeah.
there.
I haven't touched on mastering, but I have been learning how to mix throughout this year. My partner Nick Schofield, he's really great at it. So we've just been like sitting down together with my tracks. So um, I have recorded a remix for that isn't out yet. That's coming out in May. But for that track, we we recorded everything, and because it was a remix, I was able to take stems, and build upon that, and then add to that, and then add vocals on top. Um, and then together we just like carved it all out, because my way of recording is often quite maximalist. Like I'll just add in as many ideas as possible, and just like layer it thick. And then afterwards, I like to go back in and be like, okay, so we don't need this percussion line to go out throughout the entire song. That's not necessary. And then just kind of nitpick, and make sure that the different sections are. Um, we want to bring out like the best qualities out of each musical sections. That's at least that's the way I like to look at it. Carve everything out, and then through that, seeing what kind of effects we like to use, um, adding compressors, and things like delay, chorus, reverb, side chaining stuff. I learned about that this year. So that's been super fun to be more on the producing side, not just like laying down melodies and chords on the synthesizer, but really diving into the the carving out of the songs. I've been really enjoying that part, and through doing that, being more confident using my computer, using Ableton, learning all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask if that is that all software? Is that all done in software, or are you using any like analog compressors or anything like that?
Just from home, just like through my laptop. Um, but we recently went to the Centre des Monts, which is a new recording studio in Gatineau in Hull, and it's an artist-run center, super cool. And through the residency, they wanted an artist to create just a piece so that when someone comes into their studio as a client, they could sit down in the chair and just like listen to something that was made there. So that was a really fun project. We were there for 5 days, my partner and I, and that was really cool because then we got to use all the cool toys that they have and reamp uh, our stems into the big room. And we had set up like 3 speakers in there, 3 microphones, and we could just like get different types of sound through that, and then bring it back in, and so that was really special. It just like made the song feel more alive because we had basically improvised just on like synthesizers, and then added a bit of clarinet, added a bit of voice, and then just like sent everything into the other room. It just like made, yeah, it just made it sound like it wasn't just made in a box, but really like made in a live room. Just gives it such a beautiful effect.
Amazing. Have you done any producing for other artists now that you're feeling a little more comfortable there?
I haven't started producing for other artists, but I am I am trying to like be more involved in the production. Well, for instance, for Pony Girl, we have 2 albums that are like they're ready to go. It's just we're just trying to figure out how to release them during a pandemic and what's the best way to do that for us. But just being more involved with the production of that has been really fun for me. The first 2 albums that we did, um, we had taken the time as a band to jam all the songs and create parts for ourselves, and in that way, we arrange ourselves into the songs. But this time around, Pascal and I, the lead singer and lead songwriter, we got together and really worked on sounds, really worked on our harmonies, for instance, because we're the 2 singers in the band, and really worked on just shaping the songs together. And that's been just for me such a fun trip. I would love to produce other artists. That would be so fun for me. Um, and I'm also working on a soundtrack and music for my neighbor's um, short horror film. So that's been fun too. So we've been basically producing that together. Um, it's her songs, but yeah, helping her produce it with our collaborator Brody as well. It's just been really fun. So I've been producing for other people in a small sense, but it's very collaborative work at this point. Yeah.
Oh, that's really neat. Um, do you want to? Oh, we're getting to. Let's see. It's like 1:40 right now. Um, I'm not sure if anybody has any questions from home. They're certainly welcome to. I think you can type it into the chat if some folks have questions. Um, Otherwise, I can just sit here and talk and listen to you talk all day. So this is great. um, uh, I was wondering if you have, um, yeah, as we're getting nearish to wrapping up, if there's like a certain, uh, if there's like a certain piece of like, what's your most crucial piece of gear that you have there? What's your like can't live without?
I'd have to say it's my Yamaha CP70, this piano.
Mhm.
Um, I I had a different one, and I just sold it actually. And then I found this one on Kijiji. It's a piano that's like made from the 70s, and it's portable. It's still like a 300-pound piano, but you can take the strings off. They just open up like this. The strings can be lifted off, put into a case, the keyboard as well, and then the legs can come off of the piano. Um, and it's kind of been my writing tool, and it's the thing that inspires me the most when I sit at it. I just want to play it. It has a really unique sound because the strings are quite short compared to an actual piano, and it's the perfect apartment piano because it's so quiet. The strings are so short. And the best feature about it is that you can plug it in, and you still need to get it tuned because I just got it.
Wow.
You can plug it in. I don't know if you can hear it, but
Yeah.
it's just so special. And because you can plug it in, that means you can run effects pedals through it. You can amplify it. You can move it around. You can play an acoustic piano at a gig. Um, so yeah, it's been special for me. I find that the sound is just, I just love it. I just love it so much. And for me, it's like I just feel so lucky that I have an instrument like this at home. And then obviously like my profit has been also very special. Just being able to create the like zaniest things. It has like every patch I can hear a song like wanting to come out of it. Um, and it's just such a versatile synthesizer. Hmm.
Very cool. Yeah, that's such a wild instrument. That's amazing.
Hmm. I'm
Um,
seeing a question here. Space Echo.
yeah.
Clarinet sounds fun. What other pedals have you played your clarinet through? Um, I have a looper pedal at home that I use quite often, and I'm thinking of buying the Fairfield Circuitry Shallow Water, and so I think I'm gonna go buy that like this week or next week. I want to try that through the clarinet. Um, Otherwise, I've tried a Pog, which is like a octave pedal. Sounds really cool on clarinet. It's like it's like playing a bass clarinet, but like more dank somehow. And then I think that's it for clarinet in terms of pedals that I've tried. Yeah. Mhm. Any other questions through the chat?
See, how do you? I haven't seen another one, but
Okay.
yeah, please. I hope people feel free to keep writing them in. Um, when like, how do you get a chance to play with stuff? Like, where do you discover? You know, you're mentioning there's one that you want to buy soon. So like, where are you trying these things out, and do you sample them digitally first, or borrowing them from a friend, or going to a music shop? Where do you find uh, these different pieces of gear?
Usually just through talking with friends and seeing what they have in their on their pedal board and just asking them what kind of sounds they're looking for. My partner, he's like, I need to buy a chorus pedal today. And Pascal is my other friend. He's like, I need to buy a compressor pedal today. So it's just like about nerding out with my friends to kind of discover what kind of gear I want. And just also talking about like, just having discussions about what I'm feeling like is lacking in my setup at home. Like sometimes I don't even know that the thing I want exists, or like I don't even know how to describe it. I just like know that I want something. And yeah, I think it's just like just chatting. Yeah, general chatting has really, really helped me. And then obviously research on the internet as well.
Um, because our, you know, general chatting, at least in Ontario, is very limited.
Totally.
Are there any like online? Do you have like online support? Are you part of any sort of groups that you would recommend to people that they can check out? Any sort of forums?
It's funny. Like I have this like Facebook group chat with a bunch of friends, and a lot of these people happen to be musicians. So then we created this sub Facebook group chat like called Ableton Pals, and
Nice.
then through that we've just been like, it's really fun. Like I've never been part of like an online community like this before, but it's really fun. We just chat about like our projects. We'll send in things to listen to, and we'll just ask each other like, what plugins are you using right now? Or like, what should I be downloading right now? Or people will be sending it like, download the BBC Orchestra plugin, it's free. Like just like stuff like that, and then they'll just be like, listen to the strings, and it's just so fun to nerd out with people like that.
Well, that's such a great resource.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, okay. Well, parting words, pieces of advice, um, before we sign off here. For someone who is a total newbie that wants to get into this, um, that maybe doesn't have access to the Ableton pals. If you don't have these resources, where do you suggest people start off?
um I think it's just, I think you have to ask yourself, like, what do you want to create, and based on that, um I think it's just like being clear with what you want to create at the beginning, and then based on that, getting what you need and getting the beginner stuff that you need to get going. Like, for instance, you might not have the resources to get an interface and a mixer and all that stuff. Like, you can also get a Zoom recorder, because that you can record through that, for instance, and that's like fairly um, inexpensive. And just like finding the gear that will help you just begin and like start from somewhere. And then once you get started, you get nerdy about it, and then you're like, oh wait, but maybe I want to upgrade my microphone. Maybe I want to upgrade this piece of gear. Um, and like, for instance, like GarageBand is like a really easy thing to use. You can record a lot of stuff just with your iPhone microphone. Um, and that's totally cool. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's finding the confidence to just start from somewhere, and then from there you notice like the certain lacks. You're like, okay, cool, like now my iPhone microphone isn't like doesn't suit me anymore. I want to like get something that sounds better, and just going from there.
So then in some sort of, you've got trillions of dollars from like a genie or something. You've won the lottery, and money is no object. What would you? But we're still in a pandemic, and you have to record at home. So, what would you? What kind of modifications would you make to your own space if you could, have any wish there?
Oh my God. I would get like a soundproof room, like a room that doesn't like just like sizzle when I clap my hands. Um, I would get a much better computer, and I would get studio monitors for sure. And then and then have like a build like an engineer room, and then build like a room to record in. Ah, yeah, that's cool. Just like I would just basically take what I have now, and just get the like version that is like 20 times better than what I have. Like, I feel like what I have now is like, it's kind of like my bread and butter now, and I feel really happy, and I just maybe just like want higher quality stuff. Yeah, just
Do you think it's
upgrading.
important to have um, those two things separate, like the recording room and the engineering room when it's yourself doing it? Do you still need to have
Yeah,
that separation?
that's a good point. Not necessarily. Yeah, you're right, not necessarily. But I guess if I have trillions of dollars, I'll build for the future.
Yes, build for the future you want, not the
Mm, yeah, for the post-pandemic future.
amazing. Um, cool. Well, do you have any parting words for people, or anything else that we haven't touched on that you'd like to share with
Hmm.
folks?
Yeah, I would say pandemic is a tough time. Um, and if you don't feel creative, that's okay. If you do feel creative, even just a small thing can mean a lot. Like, even if it's just sitting down for an hour and journaling about your feelings, that can be just enough to spark something new for you, new ideas. And I think that's important. Um, and to not be too hard on yourself if you're not like writing the album that will win the Grammy, just like being okay with showing a part of you that's true and that feels good. I think that's the most important part.
Huh, that's amazing advice. I think there's a ton of pressure throughout this year for people to be, still putting out content all the time and to, some people, uh, think of it, oh, it's like a giant writer's retreat now because you can't go anywhere or do anything. And yeah, I think it's really important to allow ourselves the space to not, not feel particularly creative. It's okay. It's a weird time.
That's definitely okay.
Well, well, thank you so much for this conversation. I really appreciated your insights there, and it's been such a pleasure to get to know you and to get this cool glimpse into your space, and get to see all the buttons and cool things that you have to make the amazing music you make.
Thank you so much for having me, and thanks to Folk Music Ontario for hosting this. And if there's any questions, you can find me online. You can DM me at Orchidae on Instagram. And yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thank you.